Okay, wait, it says record. Oh, okay, we're recording now.
Great.
Okay, great. Well, let's call the meeting to order. We do not have Taffy in attendance today, and we have a hard stop at 9 o'clock, so we'll be efficient with the agenda today. Okay. I read over the first agenda item is the minutes from June 1st, 2021. I read over them and I do not have any revisions. So Sharon, if you don't mind making a motion to approve the minutes, unless you have any comments.
No, I have no comments. I'll make a motion.
Okay, great. Well, being it's just the two of us, that motion passes. The minutes have been approved. The agenda items are just two things, the graduation policy followed by the sustainability policy. So Julie's on the line to discuss the graduation policy change. And Julie, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure, and I will be as efficient as I can. So I think everyone knows that the state statute concerning graduation requirements for high school has changed beginning with the class of 2023. Our current policy is somewhat reflective of those changes, but we wanted to ensure that all of the statutory changes as well as our own changes are reflected. So the statute requires 9 credits in the humanities, specifically including civics and the arts, 9 credits in STEM, 1 credit in physical education and wellness, 1 credit in health and safety education, and 1 credit in world language, as well as 1 credit of a mastery-based diploma assessment. Our current policy reflects nearly all of those things, so the proposed changes just sort of codify them in the way that we typically are implementing them. So if we just go through really quickly, the proposed change for the humanities section is to reflect it as 10 credits as opposed to 9. That is because we have included world language as a humanities area. Typically, world languages are contained within a broader humanities department. And by incorporating world language into the humanities area, students who take multiple credits in world language can use those credits for their humanities area electives. Other changes in the humanities area, just a name change. What has previously been recorded as fine and performing arts, 1 credit, we would like to reflect as visual and performing arts. That corresponds with the department as it is reflected in our program of studies. In the area of STEM, what is proposed in terms of a change is not the number of credits, it's how we're recording the sub areas. So mathematics, and this came from a lot of conversation with our CIL for math, Janine Russo. Previously, we've listed specific courses as being required. Those specific courses are Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. In practice, a great majority of our students do not actually take those courses at the high school level, meaning they're not reflected in their final transcript, because so many of them come to us having already completed some or all of those courses. So the feeling is, in order to be reflective of what's truly happening, to continue to include a required 3 credits in math, but not to specify those particular courses. In science, again, it's very similar to what it previously has been, life science and physical science, but adding the word lab because the majority of our science classes offer a hands-on lab in addition to the classroom activities. And the feeling is that we should specify that the requirement is that students take those courses as a lab science as opposed to just a typical classroom sort of class. One of the, I think, biggest changes to highlight is striking requirement for technology. So previously there was 1 credit that was listed specifically as a requirement in technology. In practice, that has seen students taking courses in engineering or in coding, but also in the arts. There have been times where students have used social studies electives to fulfill that requirement. So it's been sort of broadly defined. And the feeling, I think, from our entire leadership team is that technology is so closely tied to everything that we do in all courses. It is truly a foundational skill in everything that happens in high school that we no longer feel we need to specifically require a course in technology, but rather to wrap it up in the general overall STEM credits, with the knowledge that our engineering program and our coding program have very healthy enrollment, and we don't anticipate there will be changes to that as a result of that change. So we are recommending removing a specific technology credit requirement.
Can I ask a question there? So if
Sure.
you take 4 years of math, which a highly significant number of our kids do, then
Yes,
that would count, correct?
it could count toward the
It could
overall
count,
9.
exactly.
Yes. If you took a fourth year of science, it could count toward the overall 9. If you
Exactly.
took 4 years of Project Lead the Way, it could count toward the overall 9. Yeah, so we're trying to provide choice and flexibility where possible.
Sure,
I think.
yeah. I'm more concerned with the courses that, historically, not in recent years, when we have this technology credit, shall I say, we kind of bent things and said, well, they kind of use technology in this class, so we're going to count it. And
Mhm.
as you said at the beginning, technology is so embedded in all courses that, who's to say one course is more embedded technology than another, for example. So will it be delineated in the program of studies? Are we going to get away from saying, oh, wind ensemble is a tech course because they have to record a few things?
Yes, and I think it complicates the issue too, because the state is moving toward these broader sort of clusters.
Yeah.
So, as an example, you might have in previous years earned your technology credit for taking a videography course. Videography is a course that exists within our visual and performing arts department. So that course could also count under these requirements as a humanities area elective or as the fine arts requirement, right? So to try to really separate out what are arts courses that can fulfill this specific visual and performing arts 1 credit requirement, what are things that are truly in the area of STEM that can be electives for them. And I think it opens up possibilities and also at the same time tries to, I think, limit some confusion with where credits are being earned in these cluster areas.
Julie,
Exactly.
can
So-
you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lisa.
So in the program of studies moving forward, then will it be identified like, okay, this is this can count for visual and performing arts and STEM, specifically
Yes,
for like
so
videography
The
or
plan
music
that we're
tech?
working with right now is to codify everything into the larger clusters. So this is
Yeah.
STEM, this is humanities,
Okay.
this is health and wellness. And
Yeah.
then if they fulfill some of those more specific requirements, to
Yeah.
note that as well. So I guess, drawing as an example, drawing would have an H next to it for humanities, and then also a VPA next to it because it fulfills that arts credit as well. So
Yeah.
yes, there will have to be edits to the
Okay.
program of
I
study.
get it. Thank you.
Do we
I have,
have?
I have a quick question on this, and that is that I completely understand why we're doing this and broadening the explanations or descriptions, and I don't disagree with it. But how protected are we if there is if someone is struggling to meet these credits and they then say that we are changing the state requirements? Is there any sort of danger of that at all?
The technology, if you're asking about technology, that is not specifically delineated as a state requirement. The new statute is extremely broad in terms of what we are required, in terms of what is required. What we're doing, I think, is trying to shape that into something a little bit more specific, but also continue to provide flexibility. So to be clear, the only specific course areas that are named in the state statute are fine arts, civics, physical education, health, and world language. Beyond that, it's limited to the broad humanities and STEM.
Well, and
Okay,
Sharon, it
so
should be noted. Sharon, it should be noted that if a student can't take world language because of his IEP, then it's waived.
Yes,
Okay.
and I should note that I included some language in the very first paragraph here to specifically note that. We haven't previously had it. It's not really necessary because special education laws allow us to make changes. But I think
Right.
it might be beneficial to very specifically say upfront that these things are required unless otherwise determined by a PPT in accordance with state and federal laws. We don't necessarily need to include that, but I think it's worth saying because we do have students that will not be able to fulfill all of these requirements because of various challenges that they may have, and that is up to their individual education plan to decide what they are able to complete.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we are 100% buttoned up and in compliance with exactly what it is that the state is requiring, and that if there's going to be any variance from that, like you said, it's going to have to be based upon an IEP or 504 or whatever it is that that gives the student the out, and that the parent isn't going to come and say that we're twisting or changing the state requirements. And
yes.
not
So to
that's
be
what I
very
make sure we're
clear,
safe that way.
so to be very clear, everything that I'm proposing here is entirely in alignment with the state statute, and we are adding some sort of additional things on top.
Can
Fantastic.
can I just ask about the math? So my understanding is now that we don't have a specific course requirement. Is that what you were saying, Julie? That it's, I mean, I'm just trying to think about like these the freshman year math kids, and going forward, just because we've been discussing that cohort specifically with respect to some of the recent testing. So now children, and I don't have a child in high school yet, so I don't really know the natural progression of the math courses. Do we have baseline requirements that students need to get to a certain point that everybody that graduates Weston High School has taken trigonometry or geometry, these types of subjects?
So our current policy names 3 courses in order of sequence, or in order of the sequence that we had when the policy was last updated, which is Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. Typically, those are the skills that are most needed for things like, success on a standardized assessment like the SAT. The trouble is we have opened up our course offerings and the pathways in math so much in recent years that, by way of example, as a freshman coming in this year to Weston High School, there are potentially 8 or 9 different courses that they could be in. Some of them are in Algebra 1, some of them are in Geometry, some of them are in Algebra 2, some of them are beyond that, they're already in pre-calculus. Some of them are taking an alternative into the Accelerated Algebra Geometry program, which is relatively new. So to codify in the policy, you must take Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. The majority of our current 9th graders are already beyond at least one of those requirements in their pathway. And so to say that they should have all 3 of those courses on their transcript is not reflective of what pathway they're actually on, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I agree with you. I think in our program of studies, we can talk about, we can delineate these are the pathways in math, and we do. We can talk about the requisite skills that are required for success on certain assessments and things like that. But I think in the policy, to be so prescriptive as to say, you must have these 3 courses, we are sort of ignoring what a large percentage of our students are actually doing in terms of their pathway. It's actually great news. It means that the students coming into Weston High School, many of them are ready beyond what these requirements are saying.
There's also another reason to take it out, and that is there has been pressure over the years to say, oh, kids that take geometry at middle school, let's give them a Weston High credit. We're not doing that. Like, it's for acceleration. It's not, well, I did these courses at the middle school, give me credit. So this kind of cleans that up too, and speaks to, as Julie said, the level of rigor that the kids come up. When you have about 50% of the kids coming up in algebra and accelerated algebra geometry. So
And then another
You don't
30%
even have that
already
course
in
there. I
geometry.
mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? As a mother of, I had a child who's double accelerated in math, and I have another child who's taking that first algebra geometry class this year. I totally understand it. Totally makes sense. So, yep, I'm good with this. Trust me on this one, Melissa. This one works.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it does. I just think, Julie, you're speaking to this at the October board meeting,
correct.
right? Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe we can, oh, congratulations.
Sure am.
There you are.
I told you, don't
Or
act surprised.
or somebody will be speaking to it. Whoever's speaking to it, let's just add a little bit of the description of the different math pathways, because I think for those of us that,
Yep.
and for the parents listening that haven't reached the high school yet, there's a big focus on math this year. It matches our goals, our district-wide goals, and we just want to make sure that the public
Yeah.
understands that this is actually a positive change, and it gives students more flexibility, but also at the same time more rigor in terms of their requirements for meeting math objectives.
You
Yes.
know
We don't
what
want it
might
to-
be helpful is to
Yeah.
include in the board posting, hello, Jody, that pathways document, the one, Julie, that it kind of outlines. Let's include that when we put the packet together. So you can see there's documents that illustrate these things.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
Melissa, I'm being very conscious of the time.
I know. I'm all right. I can
I
be like
just-
5 minutes late.
If I can, I just
Story
want to
of my life.
highlight a couple of suggested changes near the end here.
Yes, please.
Yes.
So wrong paper. In what is now section 6,
Yep.
we're just trying to get more to the heart of, I think, what the previous section 5 was trying to articulate. So it's about courses that are taken outside of Weston High School. And I think, so there is a policy that exists already. It's policy 6146.2 that speaks to online courses. I think, and this is just my suspicion, this particular paragraph was aimed more at students who are coming into Weston High School from another institution. Maybe they're new to Weston, or maybe they're coming from a private school to public school, and what we do with their previous credits. Similar to that, I think we have situations where students take courses for credit recovery during the summer, and we don't offer a summer school program. So we're again in a situation where we're looking at credits that are earned from another institution. So just trying to kind of articulate what might happen with credits earned at another institution for a student who's coming in new to Weston High School, or for a student who has completed those credits in an effort to recover lost credits from their Weston High School program. So this is, I think, a little bit more specific than what was here before, but
Yes.
really guides us toward what should happen with those credits, so that we're helping kids along the pathway. We're not ignoring what they've done before. We're not excusing them from our requirements. We're helping them to take what they've previously done, move forward in the pathway, and we're reflecting that via attaching that transcript to our own, which has been our past practice, instead of trying to codify it in some way on our own transcript with a course that may or may not match what they've done.
Julie, does that mean policy 6146.2 is outdated?
I don't think that it's outdated in terms of the content. I do know that there is a piece of that policy that talks about if a student has approval to take an online course and they complete it and they earn credit, that credit will be reflected on Weston High School's transcript. And that is not something that has been a part of our practice.
All right.
Our practice has always been that those credits earned outside of Weston High School can count toward graduation requirements, but that
But not the
transcript
grade.
is separate and is attached to ours.
So why don't we look at that policy the next meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just going to ask Jody to put that on the list for the next
Yeah,
meeting.
well, let's look at it
make
the
sure
next
it's
meeting.
consistent. Yep.
Julie,
Um,
please join us for that meeting. Make sure she gets invited.
And then I
One
had,
question, Julie. Courses completed for credit recovery while enrolled at Weston High School will be reflected on the Weston High School transcript. Will they be part of the GPA? Is the credit recovery outside of Weston High School?
So credit recovery has to be outside of Weston High School. We're
Yes,
talking
that's
about
what I thought.
summer school here. A lot of kids do it through an online program,
Yes.
or they'll go to Norwalk or Westport, another
Yes.
larger district that offers a program. But because it's credit recovery, it's a course that the student has taken in Weston. Let's say they take English 9 and they fail for the year.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
go to summer school, they do some things to sort of build up their skills, and then they are able to earn credit. So I don't want to completely discount what was done all through the entire year at Weston High School and say, I think, let me back up. I think that credit earned through a program like that should count toward the GPA, because a failure in a course at Weston High School counts to that student's detriment in their GPA.
So
in
basically
order
it
to sort of
replaces the
balance
grade?
that out, say again?
It replaces the grade. Is that it?
Yeah,
Well, then-
I think it needs to. I think we need to
Yeah, I
reflect
get
that
it.
they've done the work, they've remediated the issue, and we want to sort of take away that GPA penalty that a failure would
Well,
result.
then let's be more specific, because the grades awarded for such courses shall not be included in the student's GPA is in subparagraph A above it. So I think
These will.
So I think shouldn't we say that then? Grades awarded
it
for
does.
such courses shall be included in the student's GPA under B.
Exactly. Don't you think that's what it needs to say, Julie?
Yes.
Yes. So we just
So let's
add
add
part.
that
And
sentence.
shall be included in the student's GPA.
Grades awarded for such courses shall be included in the student's GPA as the second sentence to subparagraph B of Roman numeral 6.
Correct.
Did Jody get that?
I have a question. I have a quick question
Well,
on
hang
that.
on. Before we get to that,
Sorry.
I'm just Sharon. I'm out of time because I'm late for a meeting that started
Okay.
5 minutes ago.
Okay.
Yeah, we can if it needs to be addressed now, we can address. Otherwise, we can raise it next month.
Next meeting is fine.
Okay. Paragraphs 6 and 7 above, Jody, in Roman numeral 8. Let's make sure that references Roman numerals 6 and 7 instead of paragraphs numerical 6 and 7, just to be consistent and to actually refer to the right line. That was my only other edit.
So if we're moving this forward for a first read at the board meeting, is it okay to still put that? Will be subject to policy 6146.2. The part
Take
about
out the
revision, then we just go through, we can remove that, but just go through our policy committee,
Yes,
right?
let's
to change it?
take out
Okay.
the bracket. Let's take out
Okay,
the bracket
yeah.
needs revision, and then we will bring it up at
Okay.
our next meeting, which will be before there's a second read. So we'll already have the revision process in place if it needs revision.
Okay, perfect, yeah.
And then
All
if
right,
we need
so
to
then-
revise this again, we can come back and do that at the second read, before the second read.
So
But I
it's-
think this is important to get out. You guys wanted this up by December, right?
Yes, well, yeah, we
Okay.
want to get it done for semester. So this is, the first read is October, the second read is November.
November.
And
Yep.
then when do you vote? December?
No, we wrote November. We vote
November,
October.
okay, so it's
Yeah,
2
November.
reads.
Second read.
Two-
Do we have time to move the sustainability along? Because we haven't even gone through it. Should we wait
I mean,
another month?
There's nothing to go through. And I want to make sure Julie finished on this. Julie, was there anything else?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought she was done.
No,
She might have been.
we got the meat of it. The only other thing that I think just needs to be called to attention is paragraph 3. Every student must successfully complete the Weston High School portrait of the graduate. And
Right.
that's the name of the mastery-based assessment.
Should we
Okay.
add there that other piece? Should we say the mastery-based assessment or something? You know what I mean? Should we?
I wondered if we should, instead of in the very first section, instead of saying mastery-based assessment,
Yeah,
we'd say portrait of the graduate.
Or portrait of a graduate.
on page 2.
Mastery-based portfolio, should we say something like that? Because we talk about the writing portfolio.
I
Mhm.
agree with Julie, though, that we should call it what we're calling it. So let's
So in
change F
section
to.
1F, we're
Yeah.
going to call it portrait of the graduate.
But should we
But
define
you know
what
what
that
we
is? Should we say portrait
And
of a
say
graduate?
portfolio.
Portrait of a graduate
okay.
portfolio?
Yeah.
Define what it is, but also define that what the state is referring to it as. Does that make sense? Because in the state requirement, it's mastery, right? And mastery, otherwise known as portfolio of the
Portrait of a
graduate.
graduate mastery-based assessment.
Yes.
That's what we're going to call it.
Yep.
Okay, in both
Yeah.
places.
I think
All right.
that's
Done.
right.
And we put it in both places.
Okay.
And that's it for me.
There too.
Okay, and we have time, just to be clear, this will come up for first read. We'll talk about it at a full board meeting. So, Sharon, if there's any other comments or questions you have or anything that anybody that thinks about now that we've discussed this and you have any further thoughts, this will be discussed at the October meeting. We can have a very robust discussion if necessary, just to complete it, because I know we're a little rushed on time. So that's fine. And we can make any revisions that we feel that we or the public or anybody feels is necessary before it goes to a second read, or we can start the whole process all over again, whatever, however this goes. So there's no loss of the opportunity for discussion or analysis of this really important policy. In terms of sustainability, there's nothing to change. It went to a first read. I have received no comments or revisions. I don't know, Lisa, if you've received any. So in the absence of any comments or revisions, then it'll go to the second read at the October meeting. So Jody, just make sure it's attached as second read, which I think is one is old business, one is new business. I'm guessing second read is old business and the first reads are new business, but we can check to make sure it's in the proper place, and then we vote on it as a board. And we can certainly have a discussion of the sustainability policy at the meeting if we need to. I've already discussed it and nobody had any questions, but I'll bring it up again.
Does this have to come at the committee reports, or can we move it up? We can move it up.
No, we can move it up. It usually is
so we're going to do old business, this one, and the new business. The first thing will be this other policy,
the
and then
graduation.
We'll go into the other piece.
Yeah, those should be the only two policies on the agenda.
Okay.
One is the second read for the sustainability and new for graduation.
Okay.
All right. Does that,
Thanks.
everybody's okay with all of that?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. I'm sorry to run, but I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Or actually, Sharon, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yep, I make the motion.
Okay, terrific.
Okay,
Thank you,
thanks.
everyone. Appreciate it.
Yep. Good luck. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.